He's a small figure in the landscape, but the coyote has a character as big as the American West. Once the howling of wolves was heard here, but now coyotes have taken up the call of the wild. The coyote is closely related to the wolf, but also to the dog. And here begins his mixture of conflicting qualities. He's the wolf we don't really fear, the dog we cannot control. He's known by many names: prairie wolf, brush wolf, coyote, coyote. Some call him God's dog, and so he may be, because the coyote is the most successful predator in North America. Today, he roams from Alaska to Mexico, from California to Cape Cod. He's both bold and cautious, a pragmatic opportunist, a foolish adventurer. He's always hungry, but always knows where to find food, a talent which has earned him a deadly enemy. In native legends, Coyote lives on the border between chaos and harmony. He is the hero and the villain. He's the trickster who always wins the toss because he's both sides of the coin. In both the everyday world and the mythic one we build around it, the coyote leads a complicated life. His identity is a special blend of the realities of survival and our own imaginations. Barry Tolkien chairs the Department of Folklore at Utah State University and is an expert on the coyote's many meanings.
In many ways, we humans have made up a character for Coyote. We've noticed all of his characteristics, some of which we like and some of which we don't. We notice that he's humorous and gregarious. We notice that he's stealthy and sly and tricky. And we've made out of him a character to respond to. The early settlers responded with a lot of emotion to Coyote, along with the rattlesnake, as part of those vermin on the frontier that they had to put into order before they could settle down. The modern-day camper and hiker often see Coyote as that romantic voice out in the dark that gives you goose pimples. And of course, for modern ranchers, it's quite serious. Coyote is the actor who comes onto the ranch and kills defenseless young livestock and ruins the business. For our American Indian friends, Coyote, for thousands of years, has been an actor who shows how embarrassing and painful it is when people forget the balances and the order that they're supposed to be responsible to in nature. The special distinction of Coyote is that he's on one hand a mature elder and on the other a reckless person in his second childhood. Old man Coyote, he's called, grandfather Coyote. Like us, Coyote's a combination of something a little bit ridiculous and a little bit divine, a mixture of all the possibilities in the world of nature. Coyote is always out among the other animals, talking to them, moving among them, trying to persuade them to go along with his plans, trying to take advantage of them when he can, always trying to manipulate the situation, applying his power. In fact, his power is so great that even the people who tell stories about him believe that these stories can only be told in the wintertime, because if they're told out of season, they can change the weather.
Old Man Coyote, it turns out, is no mere four-legged creature, but a character of universal proportions. A potent force of nature, a consummate clown, His powers make him a formidable adversary. With a cat-like pounce, keen hearing, and a taste for mice, coyotes find hunting easy in the thin snow of late winter. Bigger game may come with even less effort at this time of year. Many animals will not have survived a long winter, and carrion provides needed meat to a whole community of scavengers. Coyotes can work alone or travel in pairs and hunt together. They may share a carcass or a large catch, but such a resource is aggressively defended from all others. Not even a young eagle is given any ground. Large animals have little to fear from coyotes. They're too small to be a serious threat to a healthy moose or elk. Weighing only 30 pounds, a coyote finds ground squirrels, marmots, and rabbits more suitable prey. And when hunting is poor, the coyote will even play dead himself to trick scavenging birds into coming too close. The coyote's flexibility extends to his social life. He can operate as a loner or, if need be, live and hunt in packs. But even working together, they can't take down a large, healthy elk. They simply wait for the sick to die. The herd pays them no attention and may even help the coyotes by stirring up mice for them to eat. Winter is a time of hard hunting, but it brings coyotes together for another reason. By mid-February, females come into estrus, attracting males. She will choose one of the suitors, and the two will become a pair. Eventually, they will mate and form a partnership that may last the rest of their lives. But she continues to test him, rebuffing him until she's sure of her choice. Gestation for coyotes lasts 2 months, and mating is timed so that the pups will be born in spring, when the weather is mild and food is plentiful. Each year, the pair will raise a new family together in their established territory and work as a team to raise their pups. April, spring in coyote country. The coyotes have chosen a den on a grassy slope, and inside, the next generation is stirring. The pups are born blind and quite helpless. They spend their first 2 weeks in the safety of the den under the constant care of their mother. Five or 6 pups is the average litter size, but some litters have as many as 10, a lot of mouths for coyote parents to feed. Ground squirrels, a favorite prey, and many coyote stories pit these alert little sentinels against their clever nemesis.
When ground squirrel comes up in the spring, his brother Coyote is waiting for him because Coyote knows that relatives are supposed to supply each other with food. But Coyote doesn't always get what he wants because sometimes he's too impatient.
After 2 weeks, the pups make their first appearance outside the den. Encouraged by a parent, they take their first wobbly steps and their first peek at the wider world. One of the parents remains in watchful attendance, and at this stage, the pups stay close to home. Coyotes lavish attention on their pups. Their devotion to family is appreciated by many Native American cultures and has become part of the folklore figure of Old Man Coyote.
Coyote's own lifestyle may be the model for stories about family relationships. In fact, in some tribes, he even teaches humans how to mate and how to raise children.
Four or 5 times a day, the mother calls the pups out of the den to be fed. She feeds them standing up. Perhaps this helps her keep an eye out for danger. After feeding the pups and resting, she'll go out hunting to add solid food to the pups' diet of milk. Their father shares all parental duties except nursing and is the principal hunter for the family. He brings food to his mate when she can't leave the pups to hunt for herself. He regurgitates meat to the pups that he has brought back in his stomach. And when not hunting, he stands by to play with the pups or just babysit. It's not unusual for coyote parents to suddenly move the family to a new den. A denning area may consist of half a dozen dens on a single hillside. Just what prompts the move isn't known for sure. It may be a precaution against a threat to the pups, or the need to move to a cleaner den. If undisturbed, coyotes will use the same denning territory year after year. There are den sites that have been used by succeeding generations for more than 20 years. When the pups are 3 weeks old, their father starts bringing home small prey animals. The pups are developing tiny teeth and now begin to tackle solid food on their own. It's another step in their training to be coyotes, for once they learn how to eat meat, they must soon learn how to catch it. But nature is a harsh teacher. As a rule, half of these pups will not live to be 1 year old. But those that do survive will all grow up to be predators. Some coyotes will learn to kill more than mice and ground squirrels. Sheep. Small, timid, scattered across remote, hard-to-protect pastures, sheep make ideal prey for an aggressive coyote. Domestication has bred out their defensive instincts. For many sheep ranchers across the western range, coyotes are the enemy, the chief threat to their livelihood. Truman Julian owns a ranch in southwestern Wyoming, where for 3 generations his family has raised sheep. He hires full-time herders, men who stay out with the flocks year-round. But Julian still has a coyote problem. He runs 10,000 sheep separated into different flocks, and the stock is spread out over 200 miles. It's a lot of territory to keep an eye on.
It seems like about August is the time when the adult coyotes start teaching their young how to kill and fare for themselves, and it's unfortunately seem to prefer lamb as one of their teaching tools.
Julian's ranch is a family operation, and in spring, all hands are required to brand and dock the lambs. The family camps out with the sheep. It's a lifestyle that's become as much a part of the West as the coyote itself.
Animals have always been my life, whether they're domestic or wild. So I try to be very objective and open-minded. On the other hand, it's my livelihood now, and for example, up in the mountains in the summertime when I go back in to count these herds and check with the men, see how things are going, and I'm laying there awake at night in the teepee and hearing the sheep blat and as they're on their bed grounds, and all of a sudden I hear coyotes. I mean, it's a nightmare to me, and unfortunately I can't be too objective anymore, because if there's coyotes in the area, it seems like invariably they're going to kill on you.
Some ranchers are trying an exotic defense that might catch even a coyote by surprise. Alpacas are members of the camel family imported from South America. Their strong herding instincts keep them with the flock, but unlike sheep, they will aggressively counter any attack on the herd. Their long necks improve their view over the flock, and despite their comical appearance, alpacas have proven to be quite effective. Julian employs a more traditional guardian, a Great Pyrenees.
I think we've got 3 dogs with this bunch, but we still had predator loss here, because as we work these sheep out and we're scattered them all out, that's where our problem comes in, is that we're just so scattered out and the dog can't cover the country. I don't think we could get enough dogs to do it. And then trying to get a dog to stay with each individual bunch, and the coyotes are smart. We watched them before, you know, and they won't work if the dog's with a particular bunch. They won't kill there. They'll go on to the next bunch.
No method of defense has proven 100% effective against coyotes. It's an old and bitter conflict for ranchers that at times has escalated into all-out war.
No matter how many times we kill him, Coyote is never defeated by death. He always comes back for more.
By June, the pups have grown bigger and stronger and are busy learning about their world. They learn that Raven is something of a trickster too and can't be trusted. Play is an important part of the pups' world, and they work hard at it. The pups still stay near the den, but the entire hillside has now become their playground. Everything is chased and chewed on as they practice to be coyotes. Playing is essential to the development of both the bodies and the brains of young animals. Now is the time for testing new things, for developing coordination, for learning to improvise, and to work together. Coyotes never stop learning. It's one of the secrets of their success. It's part of what makes them so flexible, so able to adapt to a changing world. Take what to eat, for example. Almost anything will do. Mice, lizards, crickets, apples, melons, grass, even an occasional piece of shoe leather. But it's hunting that takes the most skill, the most patience, and the most practice. Coyotes use several hunting styles: the cat-like stalk and pounce, and the chase, favored by dogs and wolves. But even when practicing just one technique, it's easy to get distracted, to forget what you were going after in the first place. But older coyotes have learned to take their work more seriously. Too close to a den, and a group of adults decides to chase them away. It's not always clear who's chasing whom. If the deer showed any signs of weakness, the coyotes might switch from defending to attacking. But they're working other hunting grounds, where the living is easier. Los Angeles, California. Smog. Traffic. Coyotes. Coyotes have been moving into town, trespassing in backyards, disturbing the peace. Biologist Eric Shargo has been studying their movements.
This is typical suburban neighborhood, which is frequented by the urban coyotes. These houses have been in place for perhaps 20 years. There's quite a bit of vegetation around, which provides not only cover, but food for the animals.
Shargo has tracked 4 radio-collared individuals in his study neighborhood for 3 years. He finds that coyotes have no trouble taking up a suburban lifestyle.
Some of these animals become amazingly adapted to human activities. I studied one male coyote who used to come out of the street down here at 7 o'clock each evening. During rush hour traffic between 5 and 6 p.m., the animal's activity would be nearly zero, while cars were active around the streets. Once people had settled in for the evening, the animal's activity level came up, and by 7 o'clock, it was foraging for food. The prey base available for a coyote in a neighborhood like this can be quite impressive. Although this is a nice neighborhood, there are quite a few rats around. In the typical home range of a coyote of 1 square kilometer in this area, there are some estimated 5,000 rats available, as well as some 430 domestic cats.
Dennis Croplin is a trapper for Los Angeles County.
This drainage way right here, coyotes use that like a superhighway, just like we use the freeways here in L.A. Remains of one of the coyote kills. Looks like leg bones from a cat. There's quite a number of cats missing in this neighborhood. We do get coyotes that find that cats and small dogs are easy prey. They make a larger meal. It's much easier for them to catch a cat or a dog than it is to chase down a rabbit. Majority of complaints that I get in this particular area is that a person's pet dog, cat, has been taken right out of their backyard, in some cases during broad daylight. Unfortunately for some of the pet owners, they've actually witnessed the attack. The last they see of the coyote is the coyote going over the fence with their little toy poodle in its jaws.
And this coyote came into my yard as easy as you please at 10 to 8 in the morning, and he killed my puppy. And you know, if you live in the country where there's wild animals, or you suspect there might be, you know, you might be prepared for this kind of thing. But when you live in an urban area in the city and you come out and see that, I mean, I was just so devastated. I just really didn't know what happened. And I got hysterical. I went inside and I got my daughter. We came outside. And it was just horrible. It really was.
One morning I took the dog out here, and I've watched her, and at 7:45 in the morning we left the dog out in the yard, and 5 minutes later all of a sudden I heard a whimper, and I knew exactly what that whimper was, and I came flying out of the house, and the coyote had the dog. I suspect in its mouth, because just that fast it dropped it, the dog froze, the coyote froze. They chased the coyote out of the yard, but this is 7:45 in the morning. So for an animal that I thought was nocturnal, it certainly is getting bolder.
These are the coyotes that we're trying to capture. The coyote in itself should be allowed to remain in the wild state back here. However, when they come into the community, we do have to deal with them.
Responding to another call, Croplin has set a trap and caught a large male coyote, the 501st of his career. The coyote will be taken to the L.A. County Animal Shelter to be destroyed.
That used to be a couple of 100 acres of prime wildlife habitat. There's very little water up in these hills. That's another factor. So they're tearing up the landscape, taking away the natural habitat. That has forced these wild animals to move right into a residential area.
They have made their home here. They actually live in our own backyards. They huddle down during the day, and at night or early morning they come out and prey on the little animals that live here. and they are just tidbits, easy prey for these animals, and they should not be allowed to live here.
As much as I appreciate the coyote's will to roam, I do not appreciate having it in my backyard and feeling unsafe about it.
But county officials can only do so much, and it's really up to pet owners to keep their animals safe.
What must be remembered when considering the urban coyote is that they are not so much in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is in their habitat.
The only way this is ever going to stop as far as the wild animals being forced out of their habitat is to stop the construction, slow down or stop the construction completely up in the foothills and allow the remaining wilderness we have up here for the wild animals.
It seems that no matter what we do, the coyote won't go away. He's the uninvited guest who stays for dinner and brings the howling wilderness with him. Even in our wildlands, far from civilized neighborhoods, the coyote is under fire. This time, it's not to protect livestock or pets, but ironically, to correct an imbalance of our own making. By the very nature of his success as a predator, the coyote now poses a threat to several endangered species. The black-footed ferret, one of the rarest mammals in North America. By the mid-1980s, there were only 18 of these ferrets left. All were in captivity. Through captive breeding, there are now several hundred, and some have been released back into the wilds of Wyoming. A tiny ferret, however, is no match for a hungry coyote. In the release area, coyotes are controlled to increase the ferret's chances of survival. On the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in southeastern Oregon, another creature needs protection. A refuge biologist is making his annual count of sandhill cranes. Each year, some 2,000 sandhills stop here on their migration from California's Central Valley to their summer ranges in the north. But several hundred will remain here to breed. Coyotes are no threat to adult cranes. Standing almost 4 feet tall, cranes are one of the largest flying birds in the world. But coyotes will raid their nests for eggs and attack their chicks. The cranes, however, have more serious problems than coyotes. Cranes are one of the most endangered bird families, and people are entirely responsible for their decline. The shallow wetlands they need for feeding and breeding have been developed into farmland and the water managed for human needs. As their habitat has diminished, so has the number of cranes. Sandhill cranes build large nests on the ground. By April, the adults are incubating their 2 eggs, and 30 days later, the chicks hatch. Crane chicks are called colts, but it takes a few weeks for their legs to grow long enough to match the name. At this stage, they're very vulnerable, and coyotes can decimate an entire generation in a flock that's already in trouble. In a way, coyotes are victims of their own success. Our interference with natural systems has helped the adaptable coyotes expand their range. But we have upset the balance between predator and prey. And to compensate for our activities, we manage theirs. But there are places where the balance still remains. Here in New Mexico, on the Bosque del Apache National Wildlife Refuge, coyotes go about their business undisturbed. There are cranes here, even whooping cranes, one of the most endangered birds in the world. But this is not a breeding colony. There are no vulnerable chicks to protect. On this refuge, there is no need for predator control. Coyotes and cranes live together, as they always have. The proper balance between these creatures is something Old Man Coyote taught Native Americans long ago.
People in many Native American tribes feel that when a coyote comes anywhere around you or crosses your path, it's a sign that nature's calling your attention to your obligation, to balance, to orderly behavior, to family relationships, or to the necessity to heed your responsibilities in the natural world. To many, coyote is a warning.
Whether or not we heed the warning, coyotes will still be out there, stirring things up, playing their tricks. Left to their own devices, coyotes, snow geese, cranes, and ferrets create their own balance, where each has its purpose and each has its place. Autumn has arrived, and the new season brings changes in the land. Coyote pups pups are grown now and out on their own, able to hunt for themselves. They will be ready for winter whenever it comes, capable of whatever it takes to survive it.
Both Coyote's playfulness and his role as a hunter remind us of the inconsistencies of life. Like a selfish buffoon, he's often his own worst enemy. But in Native American stories, he also brings rain, places the North Star, invents death, and solves problems. He creates life, often singing the humans into being. The trickster in him makes him want both fun and power, control and irresponsibility, risk and safety. He always wants it both ways. Is he like us, or are we like him?
We may glimpse one mousing in the golden grass, or slipping through an eastern forest, or turning the corner at the end of a street. For this is Old Man Coyote, the trickster, alive and well in the modern world, using his powers to teach us the limits of our own.